Found an old brown envelope hidden underneath a book. The paper wore the scent of time, like memories no one took. A fountain pen lay next to it, its silver worn with age, waiting for another story to quietly fill the page. I wrote your name, then stopped again, watching ink begin to dry. Some feelings travel farther when they never leave the mind. Every word I couldn't say found a place to softly stay, folded carefully between these lines, waiting for a better time. These are the letters never sent, written underneath the moon. Every page still keeps a piece of afternoons with you. Every sentence holds a promise, too gentle to demand. Love doesn't need an address to understand. These are the letters never sent, still living in my hands. I wrote about the little things you never knew I'd seen. The way you smiled at strangers, the calmness in between, the coffee growing colder while we talked until sunrise. Streetlights faded one by one, reflecting in your eyes. I never searched for perfect words, they never seemed enough. The simplest truth I ever knew was learning how to love. You never asked for poetry, yet somehow you became every page I wanted to write. Some stories need no ending, some feelings If I ever tell you how this all began, it won't start with fireworks or crowded rooms. It began the afternoon you waited for an elderly woman to cross the street. You never noticed I was watching. You simply smiled, held the door, and continued as though kindness was the easiest thing in the world. That moment stayed with me long after you disappeared into the evening crowd. Sometimes a heart decides before the mind can explain why. Love arrives quietly and asks us to notice. If I ever tell you why I stayed, it wasn't for the perfect days. It was the way you carry peace into every room, turning ordinary hours into something I wanted to come home to. If I ever tell you, that's where the story starts. Weeks became familiar, coffee shops remembered our names. The waiter stopped asking what we like. He already knew rain became an excuse to walk slower. Bookstores turned into places where we searched for stories only to leave talking about our own. One evening you slipped a folded receipt into my coat pocket. When I found it later, you had written, "Don't work too hard, save a little of yourself for tomorrow." No poem, no grand confession, just one sentence. Yet somehow it became the most valuable thing I'd carried all year. Love isn't measured by impressive words, it's measured by the little reminders that someone is thinking of you even when you're apart. If I ever tell you what changed me, it wasn't one extraordinary day. It was hundreds of ordinary moments, quietly standing together until they became a lifetime. If I ever tell you, you'll finally know you were always changing my world without trying. Maybe we'll never remember our first conversation exactly. Maybe time will blur the dates, the places, even the weather. But I believe we'll always remember how we felt walking beside one another. If I ever tell you everything I've never said, I'll tell you about patience, about gentle hands, about rainy afternoons, about coffee growing cold while conversations stayed warm. I'll tell you, you became my safest place long before either of us called it love. And if I never find perfect words, I hope the life we build together will finish every sentence I couldn't. This afternoon I searched the shelf for a novel we both loved. Its weathered spine had gathered dust from seasons passing by. As I turned another chapter, something drifted to the floor. A tiny photograph pressed flat with time. Behind it lay a folded note written in blue ink on cream-colored paper. No date, no signature, only one familiar sentence: if life gets noisy, meet me here. I smiled before I realized you had written it years ago. Funny how a single page can hold a memory long after the voices fade. Folded between the pages where quiet moments stay, hidden from the passing years, yet never swept away. Every crease remembers hands that held it near. Some stories never disappear, they simply wait to be found again. The bookmark still rested exactly where we'd stopped, halfway through a chapter neither of us finished. You always claimed we talked too much to ever reach the ending. Maybe that was the point. I settled by the window, reading every line again. Outside, autumn leaves cross the garden path like tiny letters carried by the wind. Your handwriting leaned gently to the right, as though each word was reaching toward tomorrow. One corner held a faint coffee ring. I remembered that rainy afternoon. The cafe had lost its power. Candles replaced every hanging light. Instead of leaving, we stayed, talking until evening forgot to announce itself. Books preserve more than stories. Sometimes they protect the lives we were living while reading them. Folded between the pages like sunlight kept in time. Every quiet memory still somehow feels alive. No expensive treasure could ever mean as much as paper carrying the warmth of your touch. Folded between the pages, waiting patiently for another ordinary day to bring you back to me. One day someone else may open the same book. They'll notice the worn edges, the faded paper, the tiny coffee stain. They'll never know why it stayed there, but we will, because love leaves footprints in places the world mistakes for ordinary. Folded between the pages, I'll place it back tonight. Not because I'm hiding it, but because some memories deserve their favorite home. beside forgotten paragraphs, resting quietly until another peaceful afternoon invites me to find you there again. There again. The evening settled quietly beside my little desk. A single lamp was glowing where the shadows came to rest. Your favorite fountain pen still waited in the wooden tray. Its polished barrel carried tiny scratches from the years. I reached to write another page, the way I always do. But halfway through your name, the ink refused to move. I shook the pen a little too hard. A drop of midnight blue landed on my sleeve. I laughed. You tell me to slow down. Some mistakes can't be erased, yet somehow they become the reason a memory feels real. Ink on my sleeve, a little mark remains, like every inside my days. No matter how I wash it, one trace still stays behind. Some colors choose the fabric, the way some people choose a life. Ink on my sleeve, a story I still wear, proof that love can leave its signature without a single word. I opened one old notebook filled with unfinished thoughts, margins crowded by small arrows leading nowhere at all. Between two paragraphs you'd drawn a tiny paper boat. Underneath it, one short question: what would make you smile 10 years from now? Back then, I never answered. Tonight the room felt ready. I wrote a peaceful home, books on every shelf, fresh bread in the kitchen, and someone still asking how my day was. I stared at the sentence for a while, then quietly added, I hope it's still you. The rain outside grew softer, almost as if the night had stopped to read along. Not every letter needs a destination. Sometimes writing it is enough to understand your own heart. Ink on my sleeve, no reason to conceal. Every tiny stain reminds me of the never quite removes. Every time I roll up this sleeve, I'll remember the quiet evening, the gentle rain, your forgotten pen, and one unfinished letter that somehow finished me. Sunday carried slow footsteps through the sleepy neighborhood. Flower boxes lined the sidewalks bright beneath the morning sun. The little post office opened just before 9. Its weathered wooden doorway looked unchanged by passing years inside. A woman with silver hair smiled as she arranged stacks of waiting envelopes. You stood beside me, holding one small letter. No ribbon, no decoration, just careful handwriting across the front. Funny how a simple envelope can weigh far more than paper ever should. A Sunday postmark pressed in fading blue, marking not the distance but the moment I chose you. Some messages travel farther than trains or airplanes do. They arrive inside a memory and quietly stay true. A Sunday postmark sealed beneath the sky, carrying tomorrow one letter at a time. You asked, do you think people still write these? I looked around. An old gentleman bought a sheet of stamps. A little girl held a postcard covered with tiny flowers. Someone near the window carefully folded a photograph before sliding it into an envelope. I answered, I think people never stopped. They just forgot how beautiful it feels. You smiled and reached for the mailbox, but paused. What if the words aren't good enough? I gently shook my head. If they're honest, they already are. The letter disappeared with the softest sound, almost unnoticed, just like the best decisions we've ever made. Not every journey begins with footsteps. Some begin the moment we let go. A Sunday postmark stamped upon the page, holding one small promise, safe through every age. No fancy declaration, no perfect grand design, just a heart finally brave enough to cross an invisible line. A Sunday postmark, quiet, still, and sure, proof that simple courage can endure. Years from now, that envelope may rest inside an old wooden drawer. Its edges will soften, its colors will fade, the ink may lose its brightness, yet one thing will remain untouched: the reason it was written. forgotten map, church bells, fresh flowers, sunlight on the street, a tiny mailbox painted weathered blue, and two people learning that love doesn't always arrive. The day a letter is received, sometimes it begins the moment someone finally decides to send it. To send it. The grocery list was waiting, held beneath a little magnet on the old refrigerator, just where you always left it. Milk, fresh basil, honey, tea, nothing extraordinary to anyone but me. Your letters leaned a little, like they hurried toward tomorrow, each curve so unmistakable, I could recognize it anywhere. Funny how a person's handwriting can begin to sound like their voice. Some signatures belong on documents, yours belonged on tiny reminders that quietly brightened every day. Your handwriting lives in every room, on little notes that chased away the ordinary gloom. A sentence on the mirror, a message by the phone, every careful letter made this house a home. Your handwriting, more precious than you'll know, because every word still carries the kindness only you could show. Inside a cookbook, I found another note tucked between the recipes for cinnamon rolls. Don't forget to add a little extra vanilla, then underneath, and save one for me. I smiled, you always believed recipes were only suggestions. The timer rang, the cookies came out a little darker than they should have. I almost apologized, then remembered something you once said. If they were made with a happy heart, they'll taste exactly right. So I left them just the way they were. Outside, a breeze moved the wind chimes. The whole afternoon seemed to agree. The smallest messages often outlive the biggest speeches, because we return to them again and again. Your handwriting turns paper into light, leaving little pieces of your gentle heart pinned beside the calendar, hidden in a drawer, finding new ways to welcome me every day a little more. Your handwriting still teaches me that thoughtful words can quiet always feel like they were touched twice. Your handwriting will slowly fade with timing, may soften, paper may grow thin, yet every letter will keep reminding me of grocery lists, cookie recipes, tiny notes beside the coffee pot, and one beautiful life built from words most people would have thrown away. I'll keep them all, not because they're important to the world, but because they've always been important to mine. The room was wrapped in silence, only rain could understand. Streetlights drew their golden lines across the bedroom wall. A novel rested face down beside an untouched cup of tea. The steam had long surrendered to the patience of the night. I reached into the drawer where forgotten papers slept, searching for a bookmark. Instead, I found another letter, unfinished, your name written carefully. Nothing more. Some nights refuse to end until the heart finds one more thing it needs to remember. Before I fell asleep, I almost wrote your name across another empty page, just to see it once again. Before I closed my eyes, I whispered to the dark, some feelings shine the brightest long after daylight parts. Before I fell asleep, the silence understood everything I never could. The rain became gentler, like fingertips on glass. A train somewhere beyond the hill called softly through the night. I wondered if you were awake, reading beneath the same quiet sky. Maybe your bedside lamp still painted circles across the floor. Maybe an unfinished chapter waited patiently for tomorrow. Or maybe you had already fallen asleep, holding one of those books you never seem to finish. I smiled, even imagination can feel like company when someone lies gently inside your thoughts. Distance isn't always measured by miles. Sometimes it's only the space between two people thinking of each other behind. The little corner cafe hadn't changed in all these years. The same cracked wooden counter, the same familiar chairs. Mrs. Ellis smiled and nodded. Your usual table's free. Funny how some places remember us better than we remember ourselves. I ordered 2 warm lattes, though you were running late. Steam curled into tiny circles like questions waiting to be answered. Beside my cup lay a folded napkin, not because I needed one, because it reminded me of something you used to do. You never wrote on expensive paper. Your best words always found whatever was closest to your hand. Coffee stains and love notes scattered through the years. Little circles left behind like laughter, dried in tears. A message on a napkin, a receipt tucked in a book. Every simple sentence changed the way I learned to look. Coffee stains and love notes never need or plan. Somehow they became the map that led me to your hand. You finally walked inside, hair still touched by rain. I'm sorry, traffic wouldn't move. I pointed to your cup, it's still warm. You smiled the way only relief can smile. While stirring in some sugar, you reached for the paper sleeve around your cup, then borrowed my pen without saying why. When we stood to leave, you slipped the sleeve into my jacket pocket. I didn't notice until much later, written across the cardboard in tiny blue letters. If today feels heavy, come home early, I'll make your favorite soup. No signature, none was needed. I knew your handwriting before I finished the first word. Love doesn't always arrive wrapped in celebration. Sometimes it hides inside promises as small as dinner. Coffee stains and love notes teach the heart to see how ordinary gestures disappear. But kindness has a strange way of refusing to grow old. Coffee stains and love notes, I'll keep them in a box beside old photographs, movie tickets, and forgotten keys. Not because they're valuable to anyone else, but because they remind me that the greatest love story I ever lived was never written in perfect letters. It was scribbled on napkins, paper sleeves, shopping lists, and quiet mornings when someone thought of me before thinking of themselves. The room had fallen silent after another crowded day. Even the hallway clock seemed tired of keeping time. I searched the top drawer for an old set of keys. Instead, my fingertips found folded paper hidden underneath a woolen scarf. The envelope had softened at every corner, as though it had been opened 100 different times. Yet the seal remained unbroken. Some decisions are not delayed by fear, they're delayed because the heart needs longer than the calendar allows. The letter in my drawer still waits without complaint, never asking why I chose another day. Every unwritten answer sleeps inside its fold, like autumn keeping summer long after nights grow cold. The letter in my drawer knows every reason why. Some truths become much clearer when they're given time. I turned it toward the window where evening gathered slowly. A name rested neatly across the front. The handwriting looked younger, more hopeful somehow. Before life taught us how quickly seasons change, I remember the night I wrote it. A storm had crossed the city, the lights disappeared. Candles filled the room with quiet amber circles. I promised myself, when morning comes, I'll finally send this. Morning arrived, then work, then another week, then another year. The words never changed, only the courage did. Time has a habit of asking questions we thought had already been answered. The letter in my drawer carries yesterday without becoming heavy in my hands today. Not every silent promise needs to disappear. Some are taste. Tonight I almost mailed it. I even bought a stamp, walked halfway to the corner mailbox, then noticed the stars reflected in a quiet puddle. I smiled. Some journeys are worth one more thoughtful night. Until then, it will remain beside old photographs, a fading concert ticket, a pressed maple leaf, keeping company with every memory that taught me real affection never rushes its own story. You asked me, what are you thinking? Such a simple question, one I've answered 100 different ways. I'm just tired, nothing important. I'll tell you later. Little sentences built like umbrellas, keeping the weather hidden inside. The truth was never missing, it simply waited behind quieter words. Not every silence comes from distance. Sometimes it comes from caring so deeply that every sentence feels too small. These are the words I couldn't say when your eyes found mine. Not because I doubted you, but because my heart needed longer than my voice. Every feeling found its home between unfinished phrases. Still, you somehow heard everyone. One autumn evening, we missed the last train. The station emptied, one platform at a time. We walked instead past shuttered cafes, closed flower shops, windows glowing from families already home. You spoke about your childhood, how your father never talked much, yet every winter morning he warmed the car before anyone woke. No speeches, you smiled, he just showed up. The sidewalk stretched ahead. I finally understood why kindness always sounded like your first language. That night I wanted to say, I love the person who taught you how to care. Instead, I only squeezed your hand. Some feelings arrived more honestly without sound. The strongest promises are rarely spoken at full volume. They are lived one ordinary day at a time. These are the words I couldn't I believe we'd still find our way home through familiar footsteps, shared routines, a cup of tea made exactly the way the other likes. Sometimes love becomes fluent without speaking. Chance, every quiet evening you stayed beside me without asking for explanations. If this letter never leaves my hands, I hope the life we've built has already said everything my voice never could. Inside my wallet, there was still a postage stamp pressed between two receipts from summers long ago. Its colors had grown softer, the edges curled with time, yet somehow it remained untouched by every move. I held it to the light, wondering where it belonged. Not every journey begins with a destination. Some begin with a reason too precious to rush. A stamp without an address carries possibility. It waits for the story to choose its own road. A stamp without an address resting in my hand, like hope before it learns exactly where to land. Some dreams need no map to know which way to go. The heart has always found places the eyes could never show. Stamp without an address, still waiting patiently for the day the right words finally belong to me. The clerk behind the counter asked if I needed help. I smiled and said, "Not today." She nodded as though she'd heard that answer many times before. Outside, the town moved slowly. A violin drifted from the open square. Children fed pigeons near the fountain. Someone laughed from an upstairs balcony. Life continued without asking why one envelope remained empty. I walked home past familiar streets, carrying nothing new except a little more courage than yesterday. Waiting isn't always hesitation. Sometimes it's respect for a moment that deserves to arrive naturally. A stamp without an address knows tomorrow's near, even if today's uncertain. somehow we'll both know we've waited exactly long enough. A stamp without an address will someday disappear, not because it was forgotten, because it fulfilled its purpose. Some things exist not to stay with us forever, but to remind us that courage can begin with something small enough to fit inside the palm of your hand. If this letter finds you on a quiet winter night, make yourself some tea before you read the first line. Pull the curtains close, let the room grow still, turn the television off. Some memories deserve a quieter audience. There's no bad news waiting, no heavy goodbye, only a few thoughts I hoped would keep you company whenever life felt a little longer than the day. If the house feels empty, don't rush to fill the silence. Sometimes comfort arrives one page at a time. Read it when you miss me, not because I'm gone, but because even gentle hearts need reminding to stay strong. Read it when the rain paints stories on your glass. You'll find my voice between the lines, long after clouds have passed. Read it when you miss me, you'll know exactly why. Remember the blue ceramic mug you almost threw away because of that tiny crack running near the handle? You kept it anyway. You said some things still deserve a place at the table. I never forgot those words. They quietly changed the way I looked at people, at mistakes, and myself. If today feels heavier than you expected, take a slow walk by fresh bread, wave at a stranger, open the windows, water the plants. Little kindnesses have a way of finding the people who need them most. Missing someone doesn't always hurt. Sometimes it simply reminds us how fortunate we were to love them at all. Read it when you miss me, when the Maybe years will quietly pass. The paper may grow thin, the ink may lose its darkness, yet every honest word will continue to breathe inside the heart that once needed it. To be read one more time. Tonight I read your letter more carefully than before, not searching for the answers I'd been hoping to uncover. Instead I noticed little pauses, the places where your pen had hesitated. A sentence crossed out once, a comma changed to a period, a corner folded twice. You never mentioned any of those things, yet somehow they told me more than the words themselves. Sometimes the truth doesn't live inside a sentence, it quietly waits between every line. Between every line your heart was speaking without making a sound. Every empty space held another reason to stay around. Love has its own language, invisible to the eye. Some of the deepest promises are written between every line. I remember the afternoon you taught me how to write with your old fountain pen. You don't push, you smile, you let the ink find its own way. At first every letter looked uncertain, too heavy, too slow, too careful. You placed your hand over mine, not to correct me, only to steady the rhythm. Years later I finally understood you weren't teaching handwriting, you were teaching patience. The notebook still rests on the same shelf. Its pages carry crooked words, but every imperfect line reminds me how gently you helped me grow. The people who change us most rarely announce they're doing it. They simply leave a better version of ourselves behind. Between every line I found tomorrow, hidden inside today. Every thoughtful silence quietly showed the way. No grand confession could ever mean careful folds. What they won't see is everything that happened outside the page. The laughter, the waiting, the forgiveness, the ordinary afternoons gave these words their meaning. Letter had grown longer than I planned that autumn night. Every page held conversations too gentle to speak aloud. Outside, the neighborhood was sleeping inside. Only the candle moved, painting quiet circles across the wooden desk. I reached the final paragraph. The hardest part was never writing the beginning. It was deciding how to end. Every goodbye feels too heavy. Every see you soon feels too small. So I searched for something that could carry everything in between. Signed with love, and not because the story ends today. Signed with love, because tomorrow we'll still know our names. Every folded page carries more than ink. It carries every ordinary promise we've chosen not to break. Signed with love, always. I remembered the first birthday card you ever gave me. The message was only 3 lines. No elaborate poetry, no dramatic confession. At the bottom you simply wrote, I'm grateful you're in my life. I must have read those words 100 times. Not because they were complicated, because they were true. Truth has a quiet way of staying beautiful. Years later, that same card still lives inside my desk drawer. Its corners are worn, its colors have softened, yet gratitude never fades with paper. Some signatures identify a person, others reveal their character. Yours always carried both. Signed with love, like every note you left behind on recipe cards, inside library books, beside the coffee maker where ordinary mornings learned how to smile. Signed with love. That's how I'll end this letter. Not because I've said everything, because I trust you'll hear the unwritten parts, the pauses, the memories, the laughter between paragraphs, the future still waiting for blank pages. So if this letter ever reaches you, turn to the last page. You'll find no perfect ending, only two simple words. Sign with love, the same way I hope we live every ordinary day together. Morning found the writing desk before it found the sun. A quiet glow across the floor welcomed everyone. The stack of old envelopes rested neatly by the lamp. Some were never opened, some had traveled many miles. I tied them with a linen ribbon, the way you always liked, careful not to bend the corners or disturb the faded ink. Each one carried a different season, yet somehow they all belong to the same story. Time never asked us to remember everything, only the moments worth carrying forward until the last letter finds its place to rest. Every page will keep the warmth we gave our best. No chapter truly closes when kindness still remains. Love continues writing in 1,000 quiet ways until the last letter. I'll always understand. Home was never built with bricks alone. It was built by our hand. The mailbox by the corner wore another coat of paint. Children hurried past it without slowing down. The old cafe had changed its name. The bookstore moved away. Even the little flower shop had welcomed someone new. The town kept turning toward tomorrow, just as it should. Some things are meant to change. Some things are meant to teach us how beautiful change can be. I carried every letter to the attic shelf, placed them inside the cedar box, beside a fountain pen, a dried white rose, a train ticket, and the photograph we almost forgot to take. Not because I wanted to live in yesterday, but because yesterday helped build everything created until the last letter sleeps beneath the years. Its quiet little heartbeat will never disappear. Every folded promise, every honest line still becomes tomorrow, one peaceful day at a time, until the last letter. The story carries on, because a real affection outlives every song. If someone finds this box long after we're gone, I hope they won't count how many letters were written. I hope they'll notice how many ordinary days were loved so completely. Maybe then they'll write one of their own. Until the last letter, there'll always be another sunrise, another conversation, another reason to pull up a chair and stay a little longer. Because love was never hiding inside envelopes or stamps or carefully chosen words. It was waiting across the breakfast table, walking beside us on quiet streets, resting inside familiar laughter, growing gently through every ordinary day we chose to share. So when this final page is turned, don't think the story ends. Close the box, open the window, let the morning in, and begin writing the next beautiful chapter.